Everyone always talks about red flags, but what about the green ones? The signs that you are in a healthy relationship, that someone is good for your heart, your growth, and your peace.
Through our journey and experiences, we have started to notice these green flags. In this video, we'll be sharing 15 of them with you. Signs to look for in a relationship, especially a partner.
But remember, these green flags don't just apply in a marriage. They show up in family too, as well as close friendships. At the end of the day, green flags are things that make any relationship feel safe, supportive, and genuine. Number 1. They stay respectful even when they're upset. Now, arguments happen in every relationship, but the way they handle them says a lot. They don't insult, belittle, or tear you down just because they're angry. Even in those heated moments, the respect stays. And that's what makes you feel safe, even in conflict.
And they extend that by supporting you, which brings us to our second green flag. They support your growth. They want to see you shine. They don't hold you back. They don't keep you small so that they can feel better about themselves. They celebrate your wins and they remind you that there is place for both of you to grow in the relationship.
And that growth is also seen in how they're able to admit when they're wrong. Which brings us to our third green flag. They take responsibility when they mess up. They're honest about their mistakes and they take accountability for their part. They don't try to shift the blame onto you or get defensive about their own mistakes. They just admit when they're wrong and they apologize sincerely. And you see them really trying to grow and be better. That strength to admit when they're wrong, it takes a lot of courage, and that's what builds real trust.
And that trust grows even more when their words and actions line up. Which brings us to our fourth green flag. They are consistent, not just in their words, but also their actions. You don't have to second guess where you stand with them. When they say something, they do it. Their words and actions line up. And that reliable type of love just feels so calming, like you can actually relax in the relationship.
True. And that consistent and steady kind of love also shows in how they listen, which brings us to our next green flag. Number 5, they really listen. When you talk, they're genuinely tuned in. They're not just waiting for their turn to respond to you. They try to understand where you're coming from, and you feel heard. You don't feel like you're being dismissed. Even in disagreements, there's curiosity rather than defensiveness. And more than just listening, they check in with what you really need. Maybe you just need to vent, or you need comfort, or maybe you actually need real solutions.
And they take the same care in how they speak about others. Which brings us to green flag number 6. They speak well of others, even when they are not around. They don't resort to things like gossip, backbiting, talking people down, even when they have disagreements with people. They do it and show it in a respectful manner. And that really reassures you, because if they speak well of others when they are not around, then surely they speak well of you when you are not around.
And that adds to something really important: emotional safety. Which brings us to our next green flag. Number 7, you feel emotionally safe around them. With them, you don't have to wear a mask or pretend to be someone that you're not. You can be your full self around them. You can be quiet or loud, silly or serious, whatever comes natural to you. And they never make you feel like you're being too much or you're not enough. More importantly, you don't have to walk on eggshells around them or hide parts of yourself. And you especially don't have to minimize your own feelings and your needs around them. And that's real safety.
And that safety grows when they respect your boundaries. Which brings us to green flag number 8. They respect your boundaries and never guilt trip you for having them. Whether it's needing space, simply saying no, or setting limits in general. They don't push you past what you're comfortable with. They understand and don't accuse you for having boundaries. They get it and they respect it.
And that respect is usually rooted in self-awareness, which brings us to the next green flag. Number 9, they're self-aware and open to growth. They know they're not perfect, but they don't get defensive about it. They're willing to look at themselves honestly and continue to be better. It's not about being flawless. It's just about working on themselves and growing continuously.
And that growth shows in how they show empathy to you. Which brings us to green flag number 10. They show empathy, even for things they haven't experienced themselves. They try to put themselves in your shoes and understand you to the best of their capabilities. They don't pretend to know it all, and they don't say things like, "Get over it, that's nothing, you're being too sensitive." They listen with compassion and hold space for you with softness and respect.
And that empathy also shapes how they communicate with you, which brings us to the 11th green flag. Number 11, they communicate clearly and kindly. They tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable, but it's never in a cruel or harsh manner. They're always gentle. They don't use honesty as a weapon. Instead, they're mindful of their tone and their words, because how something is said matters just as much as what is being said.
And they extend that care in how they treat others. Which brings us to green flag number 12. They treat people kindly. Everyday people, including cashiers, waiters, janitors, they show kindness and respect. They say things like thank you, they speak with gentleness, and this kind of attribute really speaks a lot about their character.
And people with such kind of character also tends to bring out the best in their loved ones, which brings us to our next green flag. Number 13, they bring out the best in you. With them, you feel grounded, you feel yourself, and you feel at peace. They draw out the best parts of you, and at the same time, they accept you for you, including your flaws, without any judgment. And that really makes you feel like you're at home with them.
And even when you're not at your best, they give you the benefit of the doubt. Which brings us to green flag number 14. They give you the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. We sound off, we act off, but they don't choose to accuse you for it. They talk to you and try to understand you. They ask questions. They continue to choose to see the best in you. And that kind of trust takes so much pressure off.
And speaking of trust, here's another big one, and the final one for today. Number 15, their love and care are unconditional. What this means is that they don't withdraw their affection from you when you make a mistake or when things don't go their way. Their love is not a reward that they give you when you're perfect. Instead, it's something consistent and unconditional that you feel, even in difficult moments. And that sense of safety is what makes a relationship truly last.
Now, green flags doesn't mean that the relationship is perfect. Nobody is perfect. It simply means that the relationship has the foundations worth keeping and building on. So yes, look for the green flags and set boundaries with the red ones. But more importantly, ask yourself, am I becoming a green flag type of person? Because in Islam, good character, akhlaq, is a crucial part of faith.
And when we work on ourselves, our relationships become a source of peace and barakah. And at the end of the day, the relationships that truly last are the ones with genuine love,
Love, kindness, and respect.